Hi, my name's Jed, and welcome to my first kind of quote unquote video essay about board games. I kind of wanted to start off with almost like a mission statement, right? Because I care a lot about board games. I like them a lot. It's pretty obvious. I often see people treat board games as like stressful or like it's an unapproachable hobby, and I just don't think that's true. And I think if there was kind of a wider audience that it's really windy outside, sorry, if kind of a wider audience were to see it and understand it and kind of get rid of that stigma surrounding it, I feel like it's the kind of hobby that could really blossom into something amazing. It's a whole form of media that's essentially slept on. We have video games, we have movies, we have music. These are forms of media that have whole conventions around them, and they're massive. And board games do as well, but it's, I could say some of the most popular board games to people, Bohnanza, Wingspan, Ruins of Arnak. People have never heard of those games in their whole life. And it's a shame, really. I mean, board gaming as a medium has moved past what used to be just a whole lot of beige. Just nothing but beige. Is it based in feudal Japan? It's beige. Is it based in colonial Britain? Beige. But we're not there anymore. You know what I mean? And it's grown so much. For my first kind of video about board games, I didn't want to come across, it's already too late really, but I didn't want to come across as preachy or like if you don't like board games, shame on you. What I really wanted to do is just kind of sit down and talk about why I love board games. And maybe if you're somebody who is kind of on the fence about it or came to this video hoping to see board games get shamed, maybe I can change some minds just simply saying what I find enjoyable about them. I'm not necessarily coming here to convince you of anything. Just maybe seeing a new perspective can help you see a new thing you might love. You know what I mean? But to start off, I kind of wanted to give my background on the hobby. I kind of come from a different background than you might think, even just based on all this. I actually only got into board games like 2 years ago. And growing up, it was not really something I had much involvement in at all. I didn't grow up really playing board games apart from, the usual Monopoly, Snakes and Ladders, Candyland, that kind of stuff. But even then, going into teenagehood, like nothing. And then I remember even as close to 2018 as to being quoted saying, why would you get any of these big fancy board games when you can just play Monopoly? And looking back, I cannot believe I even thought that without even trying one of them first. It wasn't until the digital release of Wingspan, meaning the like computer game version of the board game Wingspan, was released. Because like it came out and it's like this card game with this beautiful art and it's all about birds. And I thought I couldn't really believe that that's what a board game was, and it blew my mind a little bit. And I instead of just simply getting the video game version, I thought I should give the board game a try, because I'd never heard of something like that. Board games to me were always beige, they're always overcomplicated, they're stressful, they take too long. But then this game called Wingspan that looks really calm, the art style is beautiful, and it's about collecting birds. That immediately piqued my interest. And I remember Christmas was coming up, and I said to my girlfriend Grace, if you're stuck on things to get me, maybe have a look at this game Wingspan. And surprise, surprise, she got it for me. And I remember the first time opening it, and you see all the little bits to it. It's got these really beautiful little like eggs that are like, they're rubber or something like that. The cards are all like higher quality cards than I was used to. Even the rule book, it's like a higher quality paper. I don't know what to call it. It's not like, your typical A3. It's got this kind of quality to it that's hard to describe. And I remember just looking through it and going, wow, like this is incredible. Base game comes with over 100 bird cards, and each one has its own unique art on it. And I couldn't believe that this is what board gaming was. This is what modern board games are. Yeah, my interest in the hobby really grew from there. And over the years, I always tried to figure out, like, what was it that's hooked me? because I've like constantly in this period of being like, oh, this will just fade. You know, I'm just into this now, but it'll go away soon. It just never has. And I've been trying to figure out why. I looked it up online. I found an article quoting a Dr. Melissa Rogerson, who is from Melbourne University. But she kind of quantified it into 4 separate categories, right? Materiality, intellectual challenge, sociality, and variety. And I kind of wanted to talk about those kind of 4 pillars. I think they perfectly sum up why I'm so interested in it. With board games, in terms of the materiality of it, seeing the effort people put into these components, there's a lot of thought that goes behind it. And simply looking at the decisions that need to be made with components, it becomes obvious how much of an art form this is. How big do you make the money? Does the money need to come in quantities of 1, 5, and 10? Does the money need to be made out of metal? I have a lot of games where the money is metal, and that's incredible. I love that. You get a little game, it comes with a little metal coin. Incredible stuff. Just a silly little thing. And that materiality, I think, it does play a big part, because a lot of the joy I've actually find in board games, and it's so capitalist and materialistic, but I love getting a new board game. I love bringing it home and taking the plastic off and opening it up and discovering kind of everything that's inside of it for the first time, because most board games come with like this punch board. And so just sitting down and kind of looking at it and inspecting every piece of the punch board, taking it all out, seeing how it fits into the box, taking a look at the rule book for the first time and seeing how the game kind of comes together. That's just such an enjoyable process, and I find it really pleasant, really, just to sit down and do that for an hour. It's hard not to just go buy games for the sake of doing that, honestly. My first time opening Lowlands, a game about sheep farming, you discover that there's a man in it. There's just a little cardboard man, and you think, what's he for? Nothing. He's not in it for any reason. He's the first player token, which you'll realize is not important at all. So the game just comes with a little cardboard man for seemingly no reason at all. And that's delightful. I love that stuff. That's my favorite stuff. The next point Dr. Rogerson made was about the intellectual challenge, playing games for a strategic benefit, that feeling of besting an opponent. To be honest, I don't really play board games for that reason. I've never really felt that feeling when playing a board game that like, oh, I have to win this. I have to win. To me, it's always been about having fun. It's socializing with friends, and it's the feeling of like, for example, Bohnanza. Bohnanza is a card-based game about collecting rare beans, right? It has a whole lot of negotiation and trading, and so somebody will flip over some beans, and then everyone around the table starts yelling all at once because they really want those beans, and you better buy my stinky beans off me, please, or I'm never trading with you again, and I'll never give you anything ever again. So buy my stinky beans. I'll give you stinky beans for your chili beans. Oh, no, okay, well, that doesn't work. Well, then how about... No, shut up, Melissa. You better take my stinky beans. And that's what I love. I love that negotiation. I love that in this instant, this is what's being taken seriously. As stupid and weird as it is, this is reality that I can't escape. I'm a bean farmer now. This person has to buy my stinky beans or I'll kill him. Long shot, the dice game, it's a completely random game about betting on horse racing, right? So you roll a dice, a horse moves. But on top of that, there's also a system of pushing other people's horses backwards. So somebody will have a lot of money bet on number 7, and oh my god, they're about to win. But I can do my special ability now and just push it back 2 spaces. And then what are they going to do? And after doing that, you look up at the person you've just done it to, and pure betrayal. There's no recovering. How could you do this to me? Number 7 was gonna win. And maybe that does play into a kind of strategic aspect of it, but I like the camaraderie rather than the strategy. And sure, those are games that are highly social. They're simple, they're highly social, you can show them to your mom and dad and they'll play just fine. But even still, in those non-kind of social games, like there's a type of board game which people tend to classify as multiplayer solitaire, right? Meaning that it's a game where you essentially just kind of sit in your own world for a few minutes. It's maybe highly mechanical. It comes with a lot of resource management type things, or you don't really interact with the people around the table that much. These are called Euro games, typically. I'm not really sure where that name comes from, but that's what they're called. And even still, I think what comes from that isn't a sense of like, I have to win, I have to strategize and win. It comes from looking at the mechanics a board game presents and seeing how can I manipulate these to get an outcome that I desire. It doesn't become, I have to beat everyone and I have to think of ways to destroy everybody. I don't really think like that when it comes to board games. I just think, like, what's an example? What's a game that's like that? Like Wingspan, but going back to Wingspan. It's a game where you collect birds and you kind of create this tableau of birds that each have their own special abilities and you have their own unique ways of activating them. You kind of stop worrying about what other people are doing or about besting other people. It's just about how can I maximize my birds so that I come out with a good amount of points. And even still, you don't even really know how well you're doing until the end. But it's that kind of manipulation of tactics and mechanics to see how you can get it to work and why you can get it to work. I think that it's fun. It's that viewing of, it's a non-competitive kind of social atmosphere where you just kind of silently sit down with some friends and take a hard look at something that's perhaps strange and uncouth. How do I get these birds to do what I want? And that kind of then leads into the sociality. Sociality. I don't actually know how to pronounce that word, it turns out. Yeah, it's the hanging out with friends. I enjoy doing that. It's just an excuse to have your friends come around. You get to hang out. You don't have to talk about anything too serious if you don't want to. It's a good way to have the social aspects without risking stale conversation, or if there's something on your mind you just want to escape from and not talk about. Board games are a great escape from that kind of reality. You know, whatever bad is happening in my life or whatever I'm stressed about, it doesn't matter right now for the next 30 minutes, 2 hours. What matters is, can I build a dam to stop the water from destroying my sheep farm? It becomes, can I get my friend to buy my stinky beans even though he doesn't want them? Will this asshole buy my stinky beans already? It becomes, I can pretend to be an architect, but at the same time, I'm stealing other people's architects from them, because why not? Does that make any sense? No. Architects of the West Kingdom is a game about you're trying to build buildings in this kind of newly structured town by putting little workers out, and obviously everyone else around the table is doing the same thing, but at any point you can just steal other people's workers and then they don't have them anymore. Why can you do that? Why is the game structured around stealing other people's workers? I don't know, but it's awesome. And I love that social aspect to it, Nothing matters for the next few minutes. And maybe you'll have a conversation before, after, or during. Nothing's stopping that from happening, It's board games are an amazing outlet for conversation and creating a social atmosphere. Whether you're playing something really simple and light, like Bohnanza, or the Deadlies, or Longshot. Pictomania is another one I would highly recommend because it's just chaotic drawing pictures. Or if you're playing something a little more complicated, which your group obviously has agreed to play, first of all, and that they'll understand, that can be really good. And I find it to be honestly kind of a meditative process of like, I can just sit and do this for a bit. The mechanics of this maybe are complicated, but as I come to understand them, there is a meditative aspect to that. Where, it's like, if I put 2 wood here, I'll get 3 iron back. I can put a worker out here and that'll give me a stone. It becomes this meditative thing where you're in this world of cardboard and wood and sometimes plastic on a table. And it's great. I love that part of it, And she also talked about variety. This is a good kind of topic, I guess, to conclude this on, because board gaming as a hobby right now is massive. You can find a game for any need, I guess. If you want to find a game to play with your family, I would highly recommend Bohnanza. I'd recommend Longshot, the dice game. The first game I introduced to my family was Wingspan, and they got it and had fun. I would recommend Wingspan if you're looking to kind of get a little more complicated with board games. Dice Miner is a game that I would recommend. I don't hear people talk about it a lot. I don't see it a lot, but it's a really kind of interesting and silly game just about pouring dice onto a plastic mountain and then picking them up. It's really simple, it's really fun, and it's really quick. And those are just the games I have. Like, if you can expand your mind so much when it comes to board games. It's a whole different art form with literal, like, amazing art that's made specifically for board games and only works within the medium. But also designing a board game, what mechanics work? Does this work with 2 people? Does it work better with 5? Designing that is in a whole art form that's essentially completely underappreciated, I think, by wider audiences. And I think by broadening your horizons and being open to this concept of adult toys inside a weird cardboard box with too much color on it, you really open yourself up to a whole world of possibilities. And it's an incredible medium that I feel people should try out more and be more open to. But that's, I'm not trying to convince you of that. I just hope that I did. That doesn't make any sense. I'm sticking with it. That doesn't make sense, but I'm sticking with it. I don't know. Maybe this video doesn't make sense. Again, this is a new thing for me. I want to do more videos like this. So yeah, if you like this, if this worked for you, please leave a comment, because I really want to hear people's thoughts about what I've said, and if there's a particular aspect about board games that you love that I didn't necessarily talk about, I really want to hear it. Or if you're someone that's new to board games or somebody on the outside, what's your perspective? Do you not want to join in because you think it's unapproachable? Do you find board games too complicated? Do you find them boring? I love hearing that kind of stuff, because I don't believe that you're either a board games person or you're not. That's not something I believe. I think there's a board game for everyone. You just have to find it. Which isn't to say you have to. If you go your whole life never playing a board game, that's fine. Obviously. It's an interesting hobby, and there's so much to explore, and there's so much to have fun with it. So that's my take on it. Let me know what you think. My name's Jed. Thanks for watching, I think.